maintain the confidentiality of the data, which is one of the requirement of cloud service. Technicalities of cloud computing depend on server aspect. The first factor driving the business to opt for is the reduced IT cost. If you are accessing a data from local server, suppose if you are an employee in a company, as your applications and softwares are on the cloud, you need not to worry about the degree of control of the client over the software or the data. Hello students, welcome to the next session of Cloud Computing and Big Data Analytics. Myself, Dr. Soumyashri, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram College. In the last session, you people just got introduced to the subject cloud computing, like what is cloud computing, what are the different benefits, characteristics that a cloud computing will possess, is it not? Today, we shall move on to the next concept. Before going to any other concept, in the last session, we just got to know about the different benefits a cloud service can offer. What are the benefits that can happen if you use a cloud when compared to a local server or local application or any local network? Now the question is, in any system, if there are advantages, it is clear that it also involves some of the disadvantages, or you say limitations. Any system will have its own benefits as well as limitations. We know about the benefits, is it not? But what are the limitations? Do you know what are the drawbacks or disadvantages of using cloud when compared to the local servers or local applications? And what are the perspective that a business will try to inculcate or improvise or include the cloud service in their business or in their project or in their company instead of having a local server or application? Apart from that, cloud is a service offered by different vendors. Anyone can offer a cloud service. If they want to offer a cloud service, suppose if I want to give a cloud service to other clients, if I am a vendor, if I am having a company where I want to start a cloud service, what are the things I need to consider before starting a cloud service? What are the things I need to consider? These are some of the concepts that can be covered in today's session. We shall start with, after benefits, we shall start with the limitations of the cloud computing. What are some of the limitations? When compared to benefits, limitations are less. Still, we have some of the limitations. What are those limitations? First one is, it is prone to attacks. It is prone to attacks. Why it is prone to attacks is, since it is on internet, since it is on network, and usually it will be a public cloud. Public means it will be available to anybody. The cloud, not your data, the cloud is available to anybody wants to access, is it not? If Google is providing a service, cloud service, that Google can be accessed by any number of clients, is it not? It is not limited to one or two, or members of some company, or employees of some company, or individuals, some individuals. If Google is offering a cloud service, lakhs of people or crores of people can access to that cloud. If it is a public one, types of cloud we shall discuss later. So your data will always be at the risk. You will have a risk of accessing of the data by some other intruders or attackers, is it not? So you might have to have different service models. You need to introduce different service models to have the confidentiality of the data. You need to have confidentiality, maintain the confidentiality of the data, which is one of the requirement of cloud service. Anyhow, to store any data, first thing what you need to ensure is the data that we are going to store is secured or not. If we feel that the data that we are storing is not at all secured in that cloud or anywhere, in any location, will not dare to store that data, is it not? So, one limitation of the cloud service when compared to the local service or local application or server, it is more prone to attacks than the local one. Okay. The next limitation is cloud service expects you to have, if you are a client, the cloud service expects you to have the uninterrupted internet connection. You need to have high speed, even uninterrupted internet connection, because the cloud service are from a third party. Somebody else is providing you the service, that too over the network, is it not? To access the files or the data, the client always requires a high connectivity internet connection. It does not need a low speed internet connection. Along with speed, it also requires uninterruption of the network. It needs uninterrupted network to store your data as well as to retrieve your data. Otherwise, there may be loss of some data in the process of retrieving or storing. So, it has to have the impact on the service provided by the cloud, is it not? If you don't have the uninterrupted and slow network connection, there will be lack of quality in service provided by the cloud when compared to the local service or local server. If you are accessing a data from local server, suppose if you are an employee in a company and you want to access the data from the server which is local and is residing in your own company, it will be easier, is it not? You don't need high speed internet or uninterrupted network. With the available network speed and other service, you can access the data very easily. But it does not happen with the cloud service. Since cloud may be residing in somewhere else, maybe in America or maybe under the ocean to reduce the heat. So, it may be located in any part of the world. To access the data from that cloud, you need high speed uninterrupted internet connection. This is another limitation of the cloud service. Next limitation is, what does the above limitation says is, once you have decided to take the service from one vendor, so vendor will be locked in, you cannot change the vendor. Once you select a particular vendor and start using their service, you have access to the Google and you are accepting the services of the Google, you have started taking the service from the cloud of Google, changing a vendor will be a most difficult task. Why it is difficult? Because you have stored all the data, you will have to pay to access that service. They will not allow you to change the service or change the vendor easily because they are into profit. Again, it is a business. Along with that, apart from that, you need to migrate all your data to another vendor or another cloud of some other vendor. Suppose Microsoft is offering another cloud and even Google is offering another cloud. you have the competition between Google and the Microsoft. You have the competitions between Google and Microsoft. Both are doing the cloud service. That means both are the competitors. Suppose you want to change, you are already using Google service and you find that Microsoft gives you better service. Then if you want to change from Google to Microsoft, it will be a difficult task. So to afford to move the huge data, you need to move the huge data. If it is an individual data that you have stored, if you are an individual person and you have taken cloud service for individual purpose, it will not be a big task to change or migrate the data from one service, one vendor to another vendor. But if you are considered as a company or organization, you will be having huge set of data, is it not? To migrate this huge set of data without any corruption, without corrupting any of the data or losing any of the data, to migrate it from one service to another service, it would be highly risky and time-consuming process. It takes so much time to move or migrate each data without losing anything. You just can't change the data from this to this, like putting a thing in a box and changing it to another box. It is pretty easier. But in case of data, it cannot happen that much easily because it is the data, not a single thing, is it not? If you have one single component, suppose if you have one single rectangular box, you can just lift it and you can put it in some other box. But this is a data, or this may be software they have accessed or some other thing. Suppose if you are migrating from Microsoft to Google, Microsoft may have developed an indigenous software which is owned by them only. They can't give it to some other vendor. In that case, if you change the vendor from cloud service vendor from Microsoft to Google, some of the softwares will not migrate to Google. Microsoft will not allow you to change that software. You cannot get that software in the Google service. Then it will be a loss for you. Even though Google offers a better service than Microsoft, that software is not available for you. Then it is a very much difficult task when you choose a vendor. To changing or to migrating from one vendor to another vendor, it is a difficult task. But in local application software, you can easily migrate from one software to another. If you are developing a web application, if you are using some other software, you can migrate to another one very much easily if you are having a local server. If you are doing the work within the local server, is it not? The next limitation is low degree of control. When compared to local server or local software residing in your PC or in your server, the degree of control of the client over the software or the data residing in cloud will be very much less. We'll be having low degree of control in case of cloud service. You will not be having access to different layers of application. Suppose if you are accessing an application for developing something, you will be accessing only the upper layer or fundamental things from that software. You will not be able to access the fine-tuned softwares or coding of the software, or anything that is interior to the software will not be able to access. You cannot access any development files or any extra files, supporting files that are necessary for a application. If you have supporting files, you will not be provided with those supporting files. You have only access to basic software where you can use that software to develop any web application or any internet-based, network-based application. For most of the application, you would have access only to the top layer. Okay? You would not have the option to customize or troubleshooting of the softwares or any application. If you encounter any problem in the software itself while developing your application or anything, if there is some problem in the accessed software, you cannot make any troubleshooting for that. You cannot debug or you cannot change anything in that, because you will not be having access to the innermost layers of the software, because only top layer software has been provided to you. Supporting files has not been given. If they are not given, obviously you cannot solve the problem if the problem resides in the innermost layers of the application. It is not in the case of local, because if you are having a local application in the software, in the PC, suppose if you are having a Visual Studio application or PHP, anything, if there is some mistake or any problem in supporting files of the software, you can easily make the changes, necessary changes at that instance only, and you can continue with the development of your software or application. But it cannot happen in the case of cloud service. Okay? And the next limitation is security threat. There is a threat for the security when compared to the local service. How much they may say that we are having a secure data, or we are having a security, high-level security for your data or application or any service that we are providing, it is more prone to attacks by intruders when compared to the local servers or applications. Is it not? So this is the primary risk of having data on the cloud. Whenever I try to store a data in the cloud, what bothers me is whether my data resides securely in the cloud or not. Whether my data is secured or somebody is going to access that data. All the time, I will be thinking about that. If it is not confidential data, suppose I am storing some programs or projects in that, I will not be much worried. Is it not? If I am an individual and I am storing some data, which is confidential to me, but may not be that much important to somebody else or intruders or attackers. In such a case, I may not much worry about that. But when it comes to business, they have to think of storing the data along with security to that data, because every data in a business is confidential one. They have to protect their data from accessing by any intruder, which may help their competitors. If I am having the data of sales report of mine or any plans, any strategies that I have implemented in my company, and I have stored that data in the cloud, it may be accessed by intruder and he may give that data to my competitor. In such a case, it will be a huge loss to me if I am a business person, is it not? If I am an entrepreneur. In such a case, security plays the most important aspect or point, is it not? When compared to local server where I used to store the data, the security threat is more when in the cloud service. So vendor security applications will be playing the important role in case of securing your data. Your data might not be that secured when passed over the cloud if it is a public one. If the cloud is public and everybody is going to access that cloud, there will be a risk of data being stolen by some other person or some other intruder. So, there will be an attack of security. And the next disadvantage is, limitation is technical downtimes. Technical downtimes. Whatever he may say, the vendor, that our cloud provides service for you 24/7/365, then you think that at beginning they'll say that they'll provide 24/7 service for you, but even a cloud may experience technical issues. Since it is a technical field or technical aspect, there may be arising some problems with the cloud service, and it may have downtimes. There may be situations where cloud itself will go down and you will not be able to access the data from the cloud. Maybe the problem of network, or maybe the problem in their own server, or any corrupt in the softwares, or any virus attack to their server or applications. There are the chances that even their cloud service may get down, where we will not be able to access the data at a particular instance. You would be helpless in these scenarios, as you would have to wait until the issue is resolved. You cannot access the data. If it is a local server, you can call the administrator who is handling that server admin, and you can inquire when that server will get ready. If it is a software that got corrupted, you can get new version from somewhere else, from your colleague, and you can install in your PC and you can run the application. But in cloud, it will not happen. Until the cloud becomes regained to their previous state, to their working state, you will not be able to access the data. You cannot predict that cloud provides the service all the time. So, even though it is providing service without any time restriction, there will be the situations where the entire cloud may go down and you will not be able to access the data. Okay. These are some of the limitations that can happen with the cloud service. As I have already said, each system has its own advantages as well as the disadvantages. Based on what we need, if we think cloud can offer better service than local, I can go for cloud service. If I think cloud service is not better, local server or application is better, I can go for that. Better thing is choosing both the things. Local server for highly confidential, local softwares for application to be available all the time, or application to be available in my local PC, I can go for local things, local applications. If I am confident that I can access the data from cloud and it is providing better service and I can save my memory and investments in local servers, I can go for cloud service. Both the options are available for the individual as well as for the entrepreneurs. Choosing wisely is better, is it not? The next thing that we are going to discuss is the perspective of business and IT, watching which the business decides to go for a cloud service. What points or what perspective information technology or technology has towards the cloud computing. Like some of the benefits we have. One thing is, with cloud computing, the new way to do business is accessing the cloud service. Organization is opting for the cloud service. Why they are opting for the services? Reduced cost of infrastructure and application. One of the most widely used perspective towards cloud service by any entrepreneur or any business person is it can save a lot of cost. Cost required to set up an infrastructure. Cost to needed to establish a server for the entire company. Cost needed to purchase all the licensed softwares, not the open source. Licensed softwares must be purchased. For single copy, they may charge lump sum amount, huge amount. Then for investing so much into the software will be a costly for us, or maybe an entrepreneur who is starting a new business. At that time, what he considers is how much cost I can save on infrastructure. The main thing is that one perspective and applications. Again, on infrastructure as well as application, they can save many amount on infrastructure as well as purchasing the applications or licensed softwares. So this is the only perspective the entrepreneur thinks of when he needs to get into a cloud. Whether I have to choose cloud service or a local one. What are the advantages? How much I can save if I go for cloud service? That is what the business perspective will look into. What does key business drivers will do is adoption of cloud are benefits for the cloud model itself. Because again, cloud service itself is a business, is it not? They have to look into what does it saves when they go for cloud service, is it not? The first factor driving the business to opt for is the reduced IT cost. Other things they cannot avoid, like investing on the basic building infrastructure, or like tables, chairs, cubicles. So all those investments they can't avoid. They can avoid the cost in the technology related, like storing the data, purchasing the server, purchasing PCs or purchasing the softwares. All those costs can be reduced when compared to cloud service. Taking cloud service will be more economical when compared to purchasing all these components like servers and softwares. So that is another perspective in a business. Okay. Once on cloud, the business continuity is assured. Until you access the cloud, your data will be secured and you can access the data without any infrastructure. Even though if you have started your business in 2000 and it is running in profit and you are in 2020 and you still access the cloud service without much bothering about the investment in the local infrastructure. You can continuously use that cloud service until you make the payments for the clouds. Even if your system crashes, that is another advantage. Even though my local PC crashes, as soon as it reinstalled or reinstigated, then you can download all the softwares, or you can, some of the softwares can be directly used from the cloud. All the operations can be carried out without any much difficulty, is it not? So that is another perspective. You cannot lose data due to the natural disasters like earthquake or tsunami or hurricanes. Suppose if your building gets thrashed in hurricane or tsunami or something, your building got collapsed because of earthquake, all the PCs and everything has been demolished. What happens? You cannot access the data. You can start your business from the scratch if you have data stored in the cloud. If I have a loss in the business and if there is any natural calamity, disaster that has happened in my area, I'll not much worry about the data. I may worry about the loss that has occurred due to this natural calamity, but I'll not worry about the data or any application because I'm sure that all my data are secured somewhere in the cloud. It is there in the cloud. Once I re-establish my organization, I can access all those data and I can store that in my PC, or I can access any software with my PC. So that confidence will be provided by the cloud service to an entrepreneur. Okay, this is what another perspective that a businessman will have or a business will have. Along with that, you can use the backup so that your business is not impacted. You can also store the backup of confidential data. Along with that, if you look at the technology related perspective, as your applications and softwares are on the cloud, you need not to worry about the updates and the upgrades. You need not to worry about whether my software will get updated or not. Because as soon as you access the internet, you will establish the internet in your PC, all the softwares get automatically updated and upgraded to the new version. Suppose if it wants some money to be deposited to update the software, that can even do it when you establish the network. From technology perspective, the main thing is without knowing or unknowingly, all the softwares, applications will get updated and upgraded. Nobody has to worry about whether this software is updated or not. Okay, these are the seamless and taken care by the cloud vendor. Who is going to take care of all these updations and upgradations is, again, it is the responsibility of the vendor to provide all the updates. If the vendor wants to have a better service or to give a better service to the client, what the vendor will do is, he'll time to time check the updates of the softwares he is providing to us and he'll update and upgrade all the softwares. So from the technology perspective, this is the one thing that we can be assured that we can get automatic updation and upgradation. The performance and scalability of the applications is also another thing that you can consider. Scalability is how much data you can want to store, you can store. How much data you want to store, maybe in gigabytes, terabytes, any amount of data you can store in the cloud. There is no limitation for the amount of memory that you can use for storing your data or accessing your software. So you can have scalability, and even in case of softwares, there will be better performance when compared to the softwares that are installed in your PC. Your softwares that are installed in your own PC may get stuck and may not run for higher amount of time or for time instance, but cloud service vendor ensures that all the softwares you have accessed will give the performance until you are using it without any break. So it will provide a better performance when compared to the local. So entrepreneurs will have a cloud service or find it advantageous cloud service with the point of investment to the infrastructure and the applications. When it comes to technology, it will be about updates and upgradations, along with that performance as well as the scalability. These are the 4 points that an IT as well as an entrepreneur look into when they are accessing any cloud service. Okay. So technicalities of cloud computing depend on server aspects. What is the server capacity of the cloud service provided by a vendor? Along with that, business requirement, how much we require, how much data, or whether we need, how much percentage we need to go for the cloud service, and cloud deployment model and the data. Whether data is highly confidential, whether we need to store the data in the cloud or we can manage with the local server. Some of the points are also considered when going for a particular cloud service. Okay, so this is about some of the perspectives which will be looked into by an entrepreneur as well as a technician. If I am a technician, what I will look into if I want to store something or access something from the cloud. If I am an entrepreneur, what are the key points I will consider before accessing a cloud service? Okay. Next comes is the cloud and virtualization. Okay, next we need to know about the cloud and the virtualization. What is cloud? We know that. Now what is virtualization? Virtual is opposite to the real, which is not real. Virtual can be considered as not real. Real, virtual. That means it is not real. It seems to be real, but is not real. Is it not? So virtualization in case of cloud can be termed as process of creating a virtual version. You are not accessing the actual, you are creating a virtual version of what? Maybe an operating system or an entire computer application or any computing resource. Anything, you can make it as virtualization, which is not real. In fact, it is not happening. It is not happening in real, but it seems to be have happened. It seems that it has happened, but physically it has not happened, which is called as the virtualization. What you can have is virtualization of an operating system. An entire operating system can be made as virtualized, or some of the applications, not maybe entire operating system, some of the applications or some of the softwares or any other computing resource, any other resource like printers and scanners, they can be virtualized. Like it is not actually connected to your computer, but it seems that it is connected. So that is called as the virtualization. One of the example of virtualization is partitioning a hard drive. You have purchased a new laptop or new PC and the service provider says that I'll partition into the drives. You will be having, when you observe in your laptops or systems, you will be having different drives. Is it not? C drive, D drive, E drive, F drive. You will be having different drives. Are those drives real? Or they are going to partition the actual hardware into drives? It is not happening actually. The hard disk will be entire. It is maintaining the entirability as it is. But how does the drives have happened is partitioning. Partitioning which is not real but is virtual. With the help of the applications, they will divide that into segments of memory which actually doesn't happen, but In case of softwares, it happens. It is not happening in hardware. It is happening just in software. Okay, if you have 20 terabytes, you can make the partitioning to different drives. So these drives, C drive may have some 30 GB, D drive may have some 30 GB, like this. So it is not actually happening, but it seems to be happened. So it is called as the virtual world, where it is not really happening, but it seems to be happening, is it not? We have the tendency of virtual. We look at the dreams. Dreams are real. They are not real. It seems to be real when you are sleeping. Once you get up, it is not real. It haven't happened, is it not? So virtualization is same thing. It is not actually happening with the physical thing. Physically it is not happening, but it seems to be happened in a software level. It is called as virtual thing or virtualization. So virtualization, as the users or applications can communicate with the virtual resources. Even though hard disk is having entire terabytes of data with it, we can access either C drive, D drive or E drive or F drive. We can store something in C or D or E or F. We can use those virtual service in real. But physically it has not happened. Just like this would with logical resource. You can access these virtual resources even though they are not existing in real. In physical world, it is not existing, but even then you can use these virtual resources. You can create folders and subfolders in all these drives, is it not? It is not actually there, but you can use it, is it not? Apart from that, virtualization technology involves the movement of physical systems and resources. Suppose hard disk has limited number of memory, or hard disk is there. In some of the laptops, there will be C, D and E drives. When you add a memory stick to your laptop, if you insert a memory stick or simply a pen drive to your laptop, it will create another drive F, which was not there. When you add new resource, it is a resource, it will add another F. If you have added a printer to your laptop or a scanner to your laptop, it will be an addition of resource, is it not? Another resource. So it will involve the movement of the physical systems. It will add a scanner software to your laptop. At the moment you connect that scanner to your laptop, or printer drive. Scanner drive and printer drive will not be there before adding that resource to your laptop. Once you get connected with your laptop, a scanner or a printer, a separate drive will be added to your system. But it is not really added, it is virtually added. You can move the systems, physical systems and resources to a virtualized environment. You can move the systems or resources from one part to another, is it not? You can move a software which is residing in C to D, or any data residing in D to E. Is it happening in real? Is data in some memory block is moving to some other block? It is not happening. But you can move the folder from here to here without any physical existence. There is no physical existence of movement of these data, but you can actually do it, is it not? You can actually move the data from one drive to another. Another thing is virtualization. It can be on-site or off-site. One example is you are using a Google Drive. What you are using is, what you are using Google Drive is storing the data, is it not? If you consider it as a cloud or virtualization, you can observe that some of the GBs are reserved to your account, is it not? If you have a Gmail account, certain gigabytes of data will be reserved to your account. Is it really happening? Is Google really allocating certain GBs to your mail ID? It's not doing that. What it is doing, it is showing you that we are giving you this much gigabytes of data, but it is not reserving that much of data for you in their server. They are virtually creating a memory space for you and giving that to you, which it seems that we are getting that much gigabytes of data, is it not? Not only in off-site, that is moving the data within the drives, you can do it in on-site also, is it not? You can create folders in the drive, you can move the data from one drive, one folder to another folder within the Google Drive, or you can share the data with some other person who is residing, who is having that much gigabytes that you have. If I am having 10 gigabytes of data for me in for my Gmail account, that person is also getting 10 gigabytes of data in his drive. I can move the data from my drive to his drive, which is not actually happening, but you can make those movements within the drive, which is an example for virtualization. Okay, so virtually it is happening, may not be physically, only virtually it is happening, which is called as the virtualization. Okay, in this we have three types of virtualization. One is storage virtualization, that means virtually creating a storage space for you, like in Google Drive. Hardware virtualization, like hardware is given to you. If you have a LAN in your computer lab or in a building, in a room, there may be 30 systems connected through a local area network, and you have a printer and a scanner connected to these printers through that same local area network. Hardware virtualization says that the printer, when you access the printer from your laptop, it seems that the hardware or the printer is dedicated for your system only. It is connected to your system only and you can only print. Is it the case? It is not the case. The thing is, all the 30 connected systems can access same printer. But when you use that printer from your laptop or your system, it seems that it is dedicated to only your system. Only your system is connected to that, which is called as the hardware virtualization. Next thing is operating system. Entire operating system will be virtualized. You can access an operating system which is residing somewhere else to perform your work. Is it not? So you can perform the entire thing with the help of an operating system which is not residing in your PC. Even then, you can perform all the operations with that operating system provided by someone else. Your system doesn't have that operating system. Even then, you can use that operating system to perform something. So that is called as the operating system virtualization. These are all the things. What is the necessity of doing this virtualization is, main thing of doing this is saving of the memory or saving on the memory space that will be utilized if it is really used. If it is actually used, memory will not be enough to be used by most of the applications. With the one or the two applications, the entire memory will be filled up, and further data you cannot store, or further you cannot process the system because memory is full. With the help of virtualization, you can increase the functionality of the memory. Versatile usage of the memory will be increased with the help of the term or the concept virtualization, which is more advantageous than physical existence. Okay. The next thing is whether the virtualization is equal to cloud computing, whether cloud service and virtualization is one and the same or they are different. What do you think? Whether it is same or different? The thing is, the primary difference being virtualization is, it is a technology to create virtual data. It is not creating the actual data, it is creating a virtual data, and cloud computing is a service offering this virtual data. Virtual data or virtualization is a process which is provided by the cloud computing. Cloud computing provides virtualization or implements virtualization. It is not same, but they are supporting to each other. Cloud computing implements virtualization, or virtualization gets implemented efficiently by cloud computing. Even local system can implement virtualization, as I have said in the case of connection of printer between the systems in a local area network. Cloud can implement this virtualization better than the local resources. So, cloud supports virtualization, or virtualization supports or virtualization gets implemented by the cloud computing. Okay, so virtualization technology can be called as the foundation unit of cloud. So it is the foundation of cloud. It is not really giving you, but virtually it is giving you the memory space or anything. If you have a software of Turbo C, you have a software, you are providing a cloud service as a software is a service. So this software, say Turbo C, is having only one copy of Turbo C in their cloud, and this Turbo C is provided to any number of persons from P1 to P infinity. Any number of persons can access the same Turbo C, where it is not physically shared, it is virtually shared among all these persons. Suppose this Turbo C is accessed by the person P1, P2, P3 and P4. 4 persons are accessing this software Turbo C. What happens is, it is not actually giving the software to the 4 persons, but it is creating the copy of this software T1, T2, T3 and T4, copy of this software, and is accessed by all the 4 persons. That means there is an implementation of virtualization by the cloud computing or cloud service, where actual software is not shared. Instead of that, copy of the software will be shared with all the necessary functionalities. If you think only software is shared, even with the software, functionality is necessary for developing an application. Those functionalities are also shared with all the connected persons. Okay, so this is something about the virtualization. To explain it even better, if cloud computing is the service, if it is a service provided by a vendor, virtualization is an element of infrastructure which promotes the cloud. They can confidently say that we will provide you this much software, even though they are not really providing that to a client. They are just providing a virtual copy of the software or any hardware, any service they are providing. Suppose if even though they are giving a database, they are not actually giving the database, they are giving the virtual copy of the database to the client. So, if it is a service, virtualization is an infrastructure that is provided to the client. Okay. Apart from that, both the technologies are used to maximize the usage of computing resources. It increases the functionality or usage of the computing resources. Along with that, they work towards increasing the performance, efficiency and reduce the cost. So, it reduces the cost. Before deciding whether virtualization is needed for your service, you have to know the applications that are required or applications which access the cloud service. Once they are clear, you can decide whether virtualization is needed for providing a cloud service. Or when it comes to the cost, initial cost involved is more in virtualization for partitioning and all those things, but operation expenditure is very much less. Even though cloud is implementing virtualization, there is slight difference between virtualization and cloud. In virtualization, initial investment is more, but operational cost is less. But in cloud, initial cost is less. You don't need much things to be involved, or you need not to invest much amount for purchasing a cloud and storing the data. But operational expenditure increases because operational expenditure, because you may store more number of data afterwards, or you may need extra services. For all those things, you have to make the payments for that. So, main difference is virtualization and the cloud computing is cost-wise. Initial investment is less in virtualization and is more in cloud computing. Okay. So, what are the requirements? If I am going to start a cloud service, what are the necessary requirements I need to have is, customers want their IT services to be up and available all the times with less data, disaster recovery. So, your cloud, if you are having a cloud service, there must be a reliable disaster recovery to recover the data from any kind of disaster that can happen over your cloud. If you are a cloud service provider, you need to ensure that there is a disaster recovery procedure or process is available with you all the time, because at any time it can happen or a disaster can happen. In such a case, all the data of the client must be stored intact without any loss. Service provider can move the customer from one data center to another. If I am changing the data center for the data that is stored, you can move the data with a disaster recovery management. You need to have a disaster recovery process required. Okay. Next requirement you need to have is portability of data and the applications. You need to have portability of the data. That means customers have to be logged into a service or platform. Clients are logged into a service or any procedure or any platform, any application. A cloud offering must be able to allow the customers, it must allow the customers to move out of their data and application from one service provider to another, because I may be changing, the client may be changing from one vendor to another. So, there must be an easy method to move that data and applications from one vendor to another vendor without any loss of data or some other disaster happening to your stored data. Next requirement for a cloud service vendor is data security. This is the most important one, where the data must be secured at any cost. Whatever may happen, data of the clients must be secured. Otherwise, you lose the business or you lose the clients if you are not able to secure the data that has been stored. If it is stored in private cloud, it will be much safer. If the data is stored in a public cloud, the vendor has to take the responsibility of providing necessary security for the data that has been stored, that too in the public cloud. Next requirement is manageability. We have to manage the data, manage the cloud infrastructure from the customer perspective. We have to store the data or manage the data in our cloud. Even though we have certain amount of memory, we have huge amount of memory reserved as a server, there may be the case that the data stored exceeds. Even though we have the softwares, suppose if we have a software S1, the limitations of making a copy, if it is limited to 1 lakh copies at an instance, or say 10,000 copies at an instance, if more number of clients are accessing the same software, the cloud infrastructure must manage that load without decreasing the performance with other 10,000 clients. So, they have to have the manageability procedure if the vendor is starting a cloud service or thinking of starting a cloud service. So, customers must be able to create new accounts. If they are going to add a new account, they must be able to have the provisions for that to create the new account. Along with that, account monitoring, breaches, data usage monitoring, every monitoring process must also be handled by the cloud service provider. Okay. The end users, the clients, would like to see the availability, performance and configuration of the data. How you have configured their data that has been stored must be available to the end clients or end users. So, this facility must be provided and must be managed by the service provider himself, because end user may be an attacker. With the help of availability or with the help of the copy that you have created of their data, they may be accessing the data of some other person. So, managing all these things must be the responsibility of the service provider. Okay. Apart from this, elasticity is another requirement of any cloud, is it not? Customer having a dynamic computing load. He may be loading large amount of data but have purchased less amount of memory previously, but he is storing more data now. Your cloud must allow the client to store more number of data with less difficulty. So, that even is the another requirement of any cloud service provider. It needs to have the elasticity. Apart from that, federated system must be there. That means customer needs a federated cloud systems. That means they have to have a unique system for them only. That means even though you are the same person providing service for 1,000 clients, each client must feel that you are giving the service to him exclusively. He must not feel that his service has been neglected by the provider. He needs to have a separate cloud system for dedicated to him. That is where virtualization plays an important role, where he can feel that all the services are dedicated to him only, which is not actually happening. All the 1,000 clients are getting the same attention to them, even though it is not actually happening. Virtualization process makes it happen that all the clients get equal number of service to them. That is another requirement for a cloud service. So with the help of, even though if any software is not available, the end user expects that these services, any service that he is requesting, will be available with you or with the communication with other vendors. You provide that service to him even though that service is not available with you. So that is another requirement of any client from a service provider or a cloud service provider. So this is about some of the things in cloud. In the next session, we shall discuss about some of the cloud services. What are the different services provided by a cloud? Along with that, the dynamic infrastructure of the cloud. How a cloud can be constructed dynamically. Okay. These are the next session's concept. Thank you.